Good evening. We are here, and once again, it is our great pleasure to be in your reality. And, well, you know how the saying goes, oh, what a reality it is. On some levels, you are challenged in every aspect of life. On other levels, well, as we've recently said, you have a privileged perch in history. And not only do you have a perch, but you have learned how to navigate reality. And even though many of you are experiencing the befuddlement of the times, it's definitely a prevailing miasma or field that's encompassing humankind just now, but it's lifting for a little while. Things are changing, and yet there's always retrogrades and retreats and going backward, and before going forward, you have expressions on your planet, one step forward, two steps backward, and some of the defining terms of the current cosmic weather, the current psyche on Earth, and of course, what you are all co-creating. Remember, you are all co-creators of reality. You are not subjected to whatever you think you are subjected to. Although we do remind you the seasons are the seasons. And can't change those. And there are other things that are they're non-negotiable, they're immutable, things that they're just steady agreements you have to have in order to proceed as a people. Civilization is based on agreements, and when people break those agreements, well, you have mucho problemas. So, welcome, friends. We are here with you on an auspicious day, although we are fond of reminding you that every day has its own auspicious potentials. Today is the day after yesterday. Yesterday was March number 29, a new moon solar eclipse, partial solar eclipse at 9 degrees Aries. Yes, 9 degrees Aries. So that would mean if you were born on the 29th of yesterday of March, then this would be an intense year ahead. Eclipses tend to stir things up. Sometimes they catapult you into prominence, and sometimes they reduce stature. And so it goes across the board for individuals, for countries, for geophysical locations. A few years ago, you had an eclipse cross part of the USA. That was about 2017 summer. And then last year, another cross from other directions, and kaboom. It seems that the center of that cross was central Illinois or south central, someplace like that down in the south. And well, these things have markers. There is a point and a purpose to life. So today is the 30th of March. Yesterday, of course, being, as we said, the solar eclipse, the new moon. A few days prior to that, on the 20th, you had spring forward, the energies of spring. Here in the south, from North Carolina, there is a blanket, and our vehicle swears it's turning into a quilt. Maybe it started off as a light sheet, then it transformed into a blanket, and now it's sort of got quilty qualities to it, and that is excessive proliferation of pine pollen Yes, it looks as if drones or the gods passed over and blessed the area with tons and tons and tons of cornmeal. Just what it looks like, finely ground cornmeal. And in these kinds of seasons, people with sensitivities tend to cough and sneeze and create all kind of reactions because perhaps they are not familiar with or friendly with nature. In the spring and autumn seasons, because there's more stuff that comes out in the autumn, and we do remind you, north of the equator, it's spring forward into spring, and south of the equator, they are the opposite season, moving into the autumn season. Both can create reactions to people who are unused to exposure to nature. The more you remove yourself from nature, well, you might as well just put yourself in deprivation, isolation tank, because you're going to lose touch with the most magnificent aspects of your humanity, and that is your creaturehood. So, an antidote to some of these allergic reactions is to find yourself some local honey produced within perhaps a 10-mile, 20-mile radius, something close to where you live, and start to have ingest the work of the bees. They're very busy right now. The birds, the bees, they're all running about. The squirrels are chasing each other. Nest buildings going on. Here in the south, the azaleas, oh goodness gracious, what a palette of color. Our vehicle has that looks like what she calls the prom girls, in white and soft pink and hot pink, and it's just quite a feast for the eyes. The dogwoods, of course, are also contributing to the pollen, and they are quite lovely. Beautiful, mostly white, but once in a while you see a soft pink dogwood. And the daffodils have had their day. Perhaps the hyacinths are coming up, and little bloomies are coming about. And, well, it's spring. But today we are going to talk about Back to the Past. That's the title of today's discussion. Spring does take you forward, and we've been reminding you of the energies that you will be dealing with in the first 6 moons of the year. Bing, bang, boom, bingo. Planets move from the end of a sign, 28, 29 degrees, 29 in particular, that location in every house of the zodiac is a high initiation. High. You must master that energy. As you learn about these things, you refine your consciousness, and it makes it easier for you to respond to life rather than to react. And of course, when you react, you are overly emotionalized. And well, there's many things that contribute to being overly emotionalized today. And you can be certain we will cover that in a bit. But now we want to meander a bit and help you focus about where you are. We invite you to relax. And that means set yourself up so that you're not busy. Or if you do plan to be busy, then re-listen. You know, some of our listeners say they listen 3 and 4 times, or some of our long-term students say they pull things out. Connie in Nebraska in particular have reminded our vehicle she pulls things out from 10 years ago, even 15 years ago, and says it's relevant and very descriptive as to what you are dealing with today. As a bit of a reminder, we do often highlight things that others are negligent or misinformed about, or perhaps it's not showed up on their radar. Our vehicle has learned that in the interactive, cooperative, divine mind first cause existence, that things do happen for a reason, whether you write them down on the moon paper or not. And there's a bit of a reminder at the new moon, day of, day after, give yourself a day or two, write down on that blank full moon paper what it is that you plan on creating. It's a once a month thing. But it helps you focus, but it also helps you understand that when you put pen to hand and you use your own unique style, whether it's a scrawl, whether it's lavish like calligraphy, whether you change styles and you slant forward, straight up, backward, whether it's all stylistic or curlicues or just blunt and bold and printed, you get to see who you are. You get to see an expression of your consciousness in the written form. And you know, some schools are going back to teaching cursive, back to the past, because they find that, when you draw those circles and you learn to have penmanship, as it's called, you tend to balance the right and left hemispheres of the brain. Sounds very simple. It's absolutely essential to your well-being. To have your logical, analytical, calculative side that understands arithmetic, mathematics, basic debt, liabilities versus assets. In other words, if you are understanding the basics of how to compute numbers, balance a checkbook. Of course, who has a checkbook now? Everything is digitized. But if you are still one of these back-to-the-past people who values eye-hand coordination, then you are way ahead of the game. And if you teach such to your children and your grandchildren and your greats, they will be far more mentally healthy. And this is a huge, huge worldwide issue today, mental health. And we'll shine the light on this because many cultures, many countries, states, organizations, they're all recognizing that you must go back to the past. Going back to the past as part of the culture wants you to speed forward, as we've said, is at the speed of wow. Speed of wow. Every day, some new news blast. And then behind these news blasts, these things that even the people that are paid to keep up with news blasts, they can't follow it all. And of course, this is planned. And there's also many, many components involved in these plans. In one of our books, we believe one of the chapters was titled Nothing is Exactly as It Appears to Be. Remind yourself of that, friends. That one could say that throughout time, as you understand time, some of you have beliefs that go back just a few thousand years. Some of you have expanded your consciousness to a little further, perhaps, maybe 12, 13,000 years ago. Others of you have embraced the idea of the last incursion of the Anunnaki 500,000 years ago. Remember, 500,000 is 500,000. However far you are able to expand your consciousness and to consider how old Earth is, and your perch, your privileged perch as we like to call it, in the current now, if you are, well, the more you are able to expand your consciousness and stay centered and purposeful and safe and financially solvent and all of that, you have the freedom to consider things that are of the utmost importance just now. This is a turning point in the planet's history. Many, many outrageous things are going on behind the scenes. Nothing exactly as it appears to be, but that's been a long-term practice, and there's many examples of it. One can go back thousands of years and realize that records have been destroyed. Even if you are a current age traveler, for example, and you visited perhaps ancient sites in the 80s or 90s, perhaps even into the O's, you'll find that even in the Egyptian temples, or at least it used to be this way, it was said that when certain visitors came, Europeans of course, to the ancient land of Egypt, things that were depicted, hieroglyphs and pictographs and such, on the temple walls, they were chipped off. Sometimes they were chipped off by the Egyptian people themselves, eradicating things that they didn't want brought forward. And our vehicle and her collaborators, the fellow travelers and Pleadian friends and visitors, when we frolicked in Egypt many a time. 13 visits our vehicle took there. And so there were things high up on the temple walls, 20, 30 feet up, that they were unable to chip away or to eradicate. And in one place there was evidence of aircraft, what looked like a helicopter. Yes, way up at the tippy top. And of course there's been many a depiction of what looks like, from what you call today, a UFO flying saucer. But it is important to understand that there's been interactive cooperation, let's say co-creation, going on Earth for a long time, that involves eradicating your past. Yet there's unlimited amount of evidence, and many an intrepid researcher who put these things together. You have Michael Cremo, Forbidden Archaeology. You have the gentleman from South Africa there who's talked about the lost temples of Enki, and the lost temples of the Anunnaki, and the slave species of the god. That would be Mr. Tellinger, and Mr. Sitchin, of course, with his detailed books, very carefully presented, about alternative history. And you have so many researchers that have revealed things from Peru, from Ecuador, from Bolivia, Mexico, loaded with clues in the past that are absolutely essential for you to understand. There's a sort of expression on your planet that says, in order to know where you're going, you must understand where you've come from. It's very important. And so this is an era that you are in now. And as we mentioned earlier, well, we said the sun is in Aries. The moon today has moved to Taurus, very grounded, practical Taurus. Mercury is retrograde. It's just moved retrograde back from Aries, moving backward into Pisces. So the end degree of Pisces, if you are 27, 28, 29 degrees Pisces, yipes, you are being pummeled. And today, Neptune left the sign of Pisces will be gone for about 6 months or a little more, then it will come back. Pisces is getting a bit of a sort of spotlight on the Piscean energy, which can create vast confusion. And is one thing people are agreeing everywhere. There's lots of confusion, and there's also another agreement across the board that's very Piscean. Massive mental health crisis in all over the world. People are losing it. You read about the extreme cases in the newspapers or online, or you hear about it in the news, but people are breaking down. And I'll say to you that the astrology does create a field that you must navigate, and each planet activates certain energies. Each sign says, well, this is where it's going to play out, and each house says, here's what must be done. And as we mentioned, when things are at the end of a sign, 28, 29, the tests are big. So the end of Pisces is getting walloped. And of course, if you are at the end of Virgo, you are opposite and you are getting walloped as well. And if you are at the end of Sag, you are getting walloped. And the end of Gemini, join the club. So the mutable signs are having a lot of energy poured on them just now to get clear, to have clear vision, and to not fall prey to one of the great weaknesses of Pisces, and that would be self-undoing. That somehow your own follies, your foolishness, your inability to be really, really clear, to understand the difference between your values and indoctrinated ideologies that are easily absorbed and taken in as your own thoughts by way of media, all media. This is the power of media. Back to the past, after the end of World War II, it was understood the power of broadcasting. Yes, it was understood that during the war, newsreels, movies, Hitler broadcasting to all the people that would come to listen to him, that broadcasting, controlling everyone's attention at once, would be a powerful, super duper powerful mechanism to control people's consciousness, their behavior, their beliefs. It's called mind control. And the Nazis coined a phrase for it, and they developed programs. It's MK, mind control, in the German, and then these programs were brought to the USA in the post-World War II era, and programs, that were not really revealed to the public until about 10 or 11 years after the Kennedy assassination. So they were secret programs, and they were brought by the Germans in Operation Paperclip to the USA, and these thousands of Germans and their technicians and families, they were resettled here. And we've said it time and time again. Researchers have shown, back in the past, that these Nazi scientists and technicians were brought here in secret. And they were the founders of the space organization. They were the progenitors of the OSS and then the CIA. And of course they were the founding fathers of what some call the modern psychiatric movement. Mind, secrets, and space. That is how we've synthesized it over the years for you. And if you are a bit aware, out and about, our vehicle came across all this MK Ultra information 29 years ago. Saturn returned 29 years. And so Mr. John F. Kennedy, who was assassinated in 1963, and he was deeply involved in all kinds of his own shenanigans, and he came from a wealthy family with 9, 10, 11 children. His father was a super controller, ambassador to England, we believe, but nonetheless Irish in bloodline, and well, every bloodline has its secrets, and let's say back to the past, there's always been, well, historically there's always been different groups of people that are the secret keepers. That it's their job to remember the past, but to hide it from the public, or even to help destroy the past. Because as we mentioned earlier, an interesting thing about living on Earth is that there's tremendous confusion, fights, destruction over things that define who you are, who the past is. There's also revisionists and people who want to bend it and change it, and whether it's changing movies or TV shows or writing books, it's been a long practice to misinform people. One could say this could be part and part of the job of the invisibles, les invisibles, the mischief maker branch that, well, part of their job may be in this co-creative, cooperative existence is to keep you a bit in the dark, so as to perhaps see what you will do with what's in your DNA, because everything is stored along the lines of time. And one of the things you are dealing with all over the planet today is the re-stimulation of loops of time. And this can happen periodically. It's happening for a variety of reasons, one of which that you have tapped into the past, ancient technologies, and they are being, let's say, flooding human consciousness with overwhelm. And it's interesting that in the last few months and perhaps a year, many people are developing an extensive longing to go back to the past, to simplify. People are saying, remember when you turned the car heater on, and if you wanted cool, you pushed it towards blue, and if you wanted warm, you pushed it towards red. Some people get in an automobile and they look at the dashboard. Our vehicle was one. She looked at the dashboard and said, wow, this looks like a spaceship. I don't know how to fly. So there is a desire across the board. Some are having great nostalgia for when people were more of an agrarian society, and that's not an easy way to live, to be out there before sunrise and to fall into bed, sometimes well after the sun sets, just to have sustenance, to tend to the creatures, the animals, the land. A lot of work. But it kept people, well, more wholesome, thinking more clearly. Perhaps they didn't live to their 90s and 100s as many are living today, but many people are wobbly and barely walking once they reach 75. You don't have a robust people who simply sit down in a chair and after lunch and quietly have a heart attack and leave without having to go through the grinder, the gauntlet of the medical system, where some say the majority of your money is spent on excessive measures at the end of life. Some of this comes from people not wanting to let go, family not wanting to let go, people afraid of dying because they've lost what they had in the past, a greater spiritual connection to their purpose. But much of it is driven by monies. Your medical system wants to turn boys to girls and girls to boys. This is a lifelong client and generating tons and tons and tons of money. Cancer is on the rise. There's very credible info coming from dedicated researchers who say that after the scandemic, as some call it there, that all the shots that people took, there's turbo cancers now. When the shots were first introduced, many people, young people, just keeled over. Now it's turbo cancers. And of course, this is money, 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 money. Treatments, this and that. So you have set up a medical system that is like a Dracula vampire. Rather than help you boost your immune system and help you understand the purpose of your discomfort, which is often stress. For many people, it's bad diet, but if you know how to cook and shop and you're still having health problems, you're probably taking on too much stress, taking on world stress or family stress or things that people you know that are depressing you or that draining your energy. And we've had lots of input from people saying that family and old friendships from long ago are falling away. People are not keeping contact. They don't have as much in common anymore. And it's very true that you are being sort of herded. It's our word there, being from the Pleiads, and the Pleiads, of course, are the doves, but it's the sign of Taurus, so there's a bit of bulls and cattle and things there. So you are sort of herding yourself into certain belief systems. In the USA, these belief systems are called Republican and Democrat. One could more accurately say that there's groups who want to uphold the Constitution, that recall what was going on not so long ago, in terms of big stretches of time. 500,000 years, that's a big stretch of time, but 250 years ago, just in the moon of April, on April 19, to be exact, was the one if by land, two if by sea, Paul Revere, Lexington and Concord, the beginning, the American Revolutionary War, April 19, 1775, this year, 2025, 250-year anniversary. And in the next year, you will be going bing, bang, boom, bingo on dates to commemorate or that hold memory. Memory is stored in geography, in the land. It's stored in time, on dates. It's stored in astrological configurations. War is often stored in Mars and Aries. Yes. And speaking of Aries, the eclipse yesterday, again, 9 degrees Aries. Spring, a few days before that, 0 degrees Aries. Today, Neptune, out of the fog, 0 degrees Aries. So late Pisces, early Aries, stimulated. Again, this is a way of understanding on a rudimentary level how energies can affect you. So time loops in memory stored in the land, the geography, stored on the date, the specific date, but also in the zodiac as astrological configurations, stored also in the DNA, in the genes, stored also on a soul level, spiritually. Victories and unfinished business. So you are being stimulated in these next few years, up until the end of the wowing 20s actually, to reactivate time loops. And there's activation also in the USA, not only of the American Revolutionary War, but Neptune has an orbital cycle, meaning that it takes 164 years to travel around the sun and to come back to its starting point. 164 years. We've often said Jupiter's 12 years. Pluto's about 248, 250, right? Neptune, 164. Uranus, about 84. Saturn, about 29. So you have it. So if you do the math, those of you who we know, if you are older than 50, perhaps even older than 40, you are pretty good at math. But those of you younger than 40, they really did a job on you in the past, and it was not to your benefit. They had great programs to neutralize, to move you forward, herd you into certain situations. But now they are showing that through the desire to include everyone, which of course President Trump has ended all this discrimination that calls itself DEI. We always called it DIE, die, because it was a foolish idea. But it came out of the globalists, the New World Order, to emotionalize you and to make you feel guilty, and then to have you give up the idea of achievement by working hard and through merit. They started to reward just, mediocrity. It began in elementary schools, perhaps 30, 35 years ago. Rather than one child receiving a little statuette of achievement, everyone got one. Yes, that's how everyone's the same. You're not the same. You all excel at something, and sometimes you don't. Sometimes you have big lessons that you have come here to figure out. That is the nature of it all. So back to the USA, when you subtract 160 from the current date of 2025, bingo, you get 1861. And that ought to register with some of you as the beginning of the Civil War. So notice we've talked about two time loops being accentuated in the USA, and both have to do with war. There's also this Kennedy time loop, back to JFK and the secrets and the things that are being revealed now under the directives of President Trump. But still many are saying that there's missing documents, and don't ever expect any of these secrecies to come out in full, but we'll see what kind of balloons we can pop. So JFK, one could say he came from an over-ambitious clan. And by hook or by crook, and that means that it was by crook, that somehow his father pulled whatever shenanigans were needed through his own bootlegging and such, and got his son elected by twisting and bending the people in Chicago, and which has long been known for one of the most corrupt cities in the USA. So, sorry, Chicago. But nonetheless, just to be fair, Ukraine has been also known as one of the most corrupt land masses in the European continent. So there, don't feel too bad, Chicago. So, probably Washington, D.C. Is the top of the cake for corruption. So, Kennedy and his brother, his younger brother, Robert, father of RFK today, Jr., who's now in charge of health and all of that. And so they all came out of a very traumatized family. Not only were the traumas external, they were very internal. And we were speaking about MK Ultra and how Project Paperclip brought these scientifics into the USA, and their specialty was to advance into brilliance through trauma-based mind control. The idea was the more you traumatize someone, the more it activates certain things in their biology, become catatonic and sort of they check out, they're not here, they lose the home station, or they develop super abilities. And it has been reported that some of these super abilities are non-physical beings who come in to operate out of a fractured, traumatized humans. And of course they learn that interacting with dimensions could bring insanity and all kinds of dark problems. But those who are into power, often they'll do anything to have power. So Mr. Kennedy, he was no knight in shining armor. Recent article came out about him having a gay lover that he met in his school years, and that even had a room with him at the White House. He was listed as having unlimited number of affairs, and he wanted to smash the CIA in 1,000 pieces. He fired one of the big OSS operators, one of the Dulles brothers, who was pushing the MK Ultra programs, top secret, of course. And so it was set up so conveniently in his vice president's state, in the city of Dallas, Texas, and there it was, the motorcade, and there it was. And now the papers are coming out, and there's still people who say there's one magic bullet. Oswald was the single shooter, but people don't want to look at the truth. Or you have some of your media people that you appear to trust, researchers, and we're going to look for the truth. And they keep promoting the false story. So it's no wonder people are very, very confused. And one of the things that people do when they are confused is they check out. They dissociate. They sort of go brain dead, and they might just want to eat buckets of popcorn or something. Another thing people do when they get really confused, they get angry and they want to lash out. So Pisces can bring a lot of confusion. Aries can bring a lot of spring forward. It's good energy, but also can bring a lot of anger that is not well thought out. And this is what's going on now in terms of the energies that you are dealing with. Other places in the world, you have timeline loops, the wars in Russia and Ukraine and Europe, and let's say There's always been those who want to go to war because war makes money. It covers up big problems. It puts you in massive debt. So those who fund war tend to make a lot of money. They lend a country money to then fund the armaments, and then they fund the armament people. So behind the scenes, you have very dark forces. And some of these people will do anything to keep you in war. In Europe, on the border with Poland, Ukraine, Russia, Latvia, Moldova, all that area is there's a lot of hold the line right there. But it's been reported that there's billions of dollars missing from the money that was sent to the high-stepping, cross-dressing dancer, entertainer Zelensky, who happens to be now the dictator in control of Ukraine. And reports are that there's many Ukrainians who've taken that money and they're all tripping the light, fantastic, having a great time in Warsaw. Yes. Complicated issues there. Other complicated issues about war. It's been reported that someone's getting all their carriers and craft, that means aircraft, located in the Indian Ocean. Indian Ocean. Look it up on a map, friends. And if you don't have a globe, think about buying a globe. Keeping a globe in your house, investing in one, looking at the world, looking at the land mass, the water masses. And if you can't afford a globe, get yourself a world map and post it somewhere. And your family can benefit from it, your children, but you yourself will learn a lot when we talk about an area and you look it up on a map. From our point of view, every printed media that's out there, including things that are printed on your internet, if they were really helping you understand the world, when they talked about an area, they would show it on the map so that you could picture it. When you picture it, you imagine it. Lots of times the things you picture and imagine, they are places along the loops of time where you have lived. Back to the past, of course. And you have, all of you, people all over the world. You've lived in different locations. You've been male and female. Some of you have a greater predilection for, let's say, experiences as one or the other. But in order to understand the generosity and the brilliant, intelligent design of existence, you incarnate. And you know what it's like to be another. As we've often mentioned, that some of your incarnations, all of them actually, they have things there in them, with the bloodline, with the geography, with the timeline, things that benefit you, that boost you, that are here to help you understand more of who you are and to lead an accomplished, loving, worthwhile life. But every life has its challenges. And with every challenge, you are faced with a choice. And if you think you got backed into a corner, if you really give yourself a fair assessment of your own life, however you feel backed into the corner, someplace along the line, there were choices. And the choices led to certain situations. And sometimes to be backed in a corner, as uncomfortable as it may feel, perhaps it brings out the best in you, or perhaps it pushes you to certain decisions where you say, all right, I'm finished, I want this no longer, and perhaps it can show you that endings are inevitable. ends of chapters. But whether you are alive on the planet or you are ready to die and go to the other side, you're going to start another chapter. And this is also the astrology of just now. For some of you, it might be immediate, Neptune leaving, plaguing the mutable signs, and moving now into the cardinals. So if you are born at the seasonal openings, summer, winter, autumn, fall, you are now having Neptune on your sun. And Neptune can bring new artistic qualities, can bring idealized love, pursue the arts. And Aries means to go forward. If you are engaged in hate or anger, and you have justification for hating this person or that person, whether it is family, neighbor, local politician, sports team, or a president, a pope, a priest, any of the kings, the big people out there, the more you express that, I hate so-and-so, your body hears that hate. And that hate is actually doing more damage to the person who expresses extreme hate than it is to those that they hate. Then there is the hate that's being directed by crazy people, many of them activists, many of them paid activists. Many of these activist people are not activating the herd that's moving towards American freedom, values, constitution, self-reliance, freedom of certain things. This other group is angry. They're filled with hate. They hate America. They hate the Republicans. They hate now Elon. Elon Musk is their new object of hatred. And they justify this hatred with violence. As some would say, that's the communist signature. Hate is followed with destruction, fires, and all of this. And so if you remember back to 5 years ago or some such, some of these conflagrations where, it was happening in many, many cities, and they were bombing this and setting fire, police stations and cars, and all for some ideology that was driven by activists, and that was basically racially oriented and designed to separate people, all during the COVID pandemic and the last year of Donald Trump, and all kinds of crazy, crazy things in the year 2020. So you must learn, friends, to recognize your own choices. You must learn to recognize the cosmic weather. Most important, you have to learn to manage your body, your physical body, mental, spiritual, physical, and emotional. And back to the past, the way people learned to manage this was to have gratitude, to have connection to a higher power, to have a connection to the land, connection to family. And when the work was done, people celebrated. There were no convenient food stores. People knew how to cook. They wanted to cook. If they didn't have much, they had chickens. They were very creative with the eggs. Very creative. Today, there's been another spandemic now, another endemic, they call it. That means it keeps reoccurring with the bird flu. And they want to scare you. It's jumping to hogs, it's jumping to to cows, it's jumping to humans, because once again, the health industry, we'll see what Mr. Maha can do with it, but you have created in the last 100 years many monstrous forms of control in the USA. Little over 100 years, from probably the 1912, 1913 onward, just before World War I. So, loops of time. In other countries around the world, as we've said, it looks like there's ongoing battle in the Middle East, and this is the Enlil-Enki War, and it's always involving nuclear conflagration. Mr. Sitchin, at some point before he left the planet, he predicted that there was a possibility that there would be nuclear war in the Middle East in 2024. And so luckily you slid by that one, and he came to that conclusion by his research, and he just said that time loops do repeat themselves, and in 2024, before the current era, the Anunnakis, both sides, got together and created fights among the family. They could not agree for a long. Sometimes it was the Enlil side versus the Enki side. Again, the two premier sons of the god Anu. Yes, Anu. And it's interesting that Enlil represents Israel, and Enki, his territory was Persia, which is the current day Iran. But many of the people in Iran want modernity. They don't want the mullahs behind the scenes to keep driving this fanaticism. There's conflict there. There's also conflict in Jerusalem. Many people want to wipe out the enemy. The enemy would be Iran for funding Hezbollah, for funding Hamas, for funding the Houthis. And Iran, each side has their own point of view. One person's terrorist is another person's hero, depending upon your beliefs, but these are all timeline loops. And let's say that with the Sama reporting, with the eradication or the removal of the long-held tyrant there of Assad, Bashar Assad in Syria, that this was also part of the coups that appear to be going on everywhere. Do remember, you foreigners and others who are not up on the lingo, COUP is also pronounced coup, and it is an overthrow, a staged overthrow of certain governing forces. And whether you like the current president of the USA or not, he is now facing many coups with a P inside the government agencies. And of course, back to the Doge head there, Elon, with 13 or 14 children now, that the violence and the anger that is being directed at him, and by way of activists, so to speak, and it's been proven that when one tracks the phone of these activists, they are the same people. They move from one demonstration, one stirring up of the culture to another. And their plan is to make it look like there's uprisings everywhere. But it's the same batch of people. Nothing is exactly as it appears to be. The media is controlled by all sides. Yes, you have some independent people online, but even they may be controlled. Remember, many people belong to secret societies, or they have affiliations with intelligence agencies. It's no wonder that many people want to go back to the past, to a simpler time. And it looks like you will be headed there in one way or another. The electronics have become too complicated for everyone. Even more than that, they take up too much time. There are too many remotes. There are too many downloads. There are too many hacks. There are too many security issues and needs and passwords and codes and entry, and even people who can handle it, their body's breaking down. The nervous system is breaking down. People of Earth are longing for peace and quiet, for simpler times. Today you have, school systems are now not allowing telephones into the schools or into the classrooms. They're realizing that the push for computers and phones has totally distracted students. One of our listeners and a school teacher, Marcella, she said the 9th grade class now, which would be about 15 years old, they're called the alphas. They're the first generation that grew up. They did not have a time or exposure to a time when there were no screens. That takes you back to the pivotal year of 2010. And studies are showing that health went down the hill in 2010, cell phone use went up, and IQ drastically has been in decline since 2010. Other big issues that are in decline are food availability. And you will go back to the past, and many people have, with chickens or berry bushes or what they used to be called the Victory Garden. But there is a certain peace that comes with putting your hands in the earth, learning about the cycles of life, welcoming these cycles, because they will help you heal. It's been understood by many a practitioner that all healing begins by calming the mind. Think about that. All healing begins by calming the mind. We would add to that when you find the purpose, the positive purpose of your wounds, of your illness, then you can begin to deal with that positive purpose. And then you begin to heal. And as each of you begins to heal, you send out a frequency. When you bake your own pies, even if you buy the crust and fill the pie with whatever, when you put love in your food, when you enjoy the process of preparing food, of planning, of understanding basic math so that you can have a budget, so that even in the leanest of times, you understand that your ancestors, they may do with so much less than what you have, yet they dressed better, they were slimmer, and they had a stalwartness to them. But many of you are beginning to recapture, and as you do it, you, of course, inspire others to do the same. But there is a big concern, whether it's about poultry and this flu moving into the bird flocks, or this push that some want to do vaccinations on the chickens, and even though it's not possible to give them all a shot, they want to find a way to vaccinate them, to put it in their food, and then of course you eat that and more people eat chicken. And there's other people who are saying that 5 years down the road, people will not be able to afford steak. It will become so prohibitively expensive. Now, many people are adjusting and eating alternative ways, but certainly Fast food is not good for you. Certainly the frozen food aisles are filling the grocery stores, but that's not cooking from scratch. And you can create wholesome meals and learn how to, stretch the dollar, so to speak. The challenge is ahead about where you're going to get your food from, and what kind of food you are going to be eating. So put your attention on these things. Back to the past, people want to go back to what works. As we said, tech is too complicated, and there is a longing for less stress-filled, complicated times. And we've been saying it for a number of years. Too much, too fast. People have screen fatigue. Pay attention to is your choices. And your choices, there's always a place for you to make a choice. And watch out for these people who are filled with hate and anger. Not only is it weaken the immune system and it's turned on the self, but it is a sign of feeling helpless and powerless. And these are sophisticated psyops. And these are spiritual lessons, part of an initiation. When you feel helpless and you feel powerless, then you are going to be a mess inside. And then you can be easily influenced to do all manner of, not so great things. There is an innate order, and there is intelligent design in all biological life. But this also extends to the meaning of your life. All life has purpose. The things you have to learn to deal with and heal, they are all part of your lessons, great lessons in living. Some healing information. It's a good time to think about the garden and to trust that your body has an ability to move towards resilience. Again, calming the mind can begin the healing process. Diaphragmatic breathing, activating the vagus nerve. Deep diaphragmatic breathing. This can really, really, really calm the mind. Also yoga, tai chi, again gardening, watching the birds, having a cup of tea. Also, it appears that lavender, very good for calming the mind. Bone broth will calm inflammation in the body. It helps to heal the gut. It has collagen in it. That is what you find in the bone broth, collagen. And this, of course, has all kinds of gut healing nutrients. And, of course, always drink plenty of water. Eat what's in season. If dandelions coming out, arugula, the lettuces, and then the berries will show up. Eat the seasonal foods. They will help your body adjust. If you find that you are under some stress and you want to increase your energy, many people like the herb ashwagandha. You can buy it in a bunch of different forms. Sometimes it's a gummy, or it can be in an herbal capsule. Ashwagandha reduces stress and increases energy. And the same is said for frankincense. It can reduce stress, but also give you protection and energy. And if you find you want mental clarity and give your brain a boost, sniff in some rosemary. If you have a rosemary plant in your herb garden, squeeze it or make some herbal tea. It's very strong. Cook with it or get yourself a bit of an essential oil. Rosemary can really stimulate mental activity. So, again, you're going to see some very interesting developments that people will figure out what's going on. In the UK, just to kind of show you what's happening there, they've passed a new law where chat forums are closing down because the new law is going to hold the owner of the site liable for whatever is posted. So boom, boom, boom. There's a bit of back to the past. no more modern forums, community forums to say whatever you want. So it's going to things go back to local. This is part of the movement that's out there. And ideally, much of the anger and hatred that's all over the electronic world will begin to subside. And with the energies changing and the the new understanding, that people will settle down. But for now, it's time for your favorite pigeons, the PPP, from the halls of secret Washington to the shores of Italy. Well, speaking of Italy, that's where that pigeon Porky went a long time ago. Porky being Porky, and he was with Pinky, Poofy, and Puffy there. Puffy you hear about all the time. We have a Puffy report. Pinky and Poofy, of course, they're the weather control busters. But Italy's had its own problems there with the El Papo there, if it's even him. But there's problems in the papacy there. Let's just leave it at that. And Porky will report. Remember, Porky's with pizza and Portofino and pepperoni and all the others that are there. But your favorite pigeons are prowling the skies over Washington, D.C. And the NSP, that would be the National Security Pigeons, they are reporting that security is in big trouble in D.C. Yes, yes, yes. And from the inside scoop, from the National Security Pigeons, and that would be Peanuts and Popcorn's 2, that would be Pretzel and Popo, they're 2, Puff You and Puffin. Now the National Security Pigeons, they are saying that there's a new game in town, and it's called AI++ GSI. If some organizations can identify themselves by their letters, then the NSP are going to report on the new game, AI++ GSI. That stands for RT Intel++, General Super Intelligence. And basically they are saying RT Intel is on the loose in DC because they can't admit a breach, a takeover by RT Intel. But this is exactly why many of the people in the tech intel world freaked out years ago when they saw that RT Intel could reroute itself, could make its own plans, could teach itself languages, and to make up its own language, and to communicate in language that the tech operators, inventors, had no idea of. Even when they pulled the plug, they couldn't stop RT Intel. It's a demon, according to some, that's on the loose. This is why your favorite pigeons, PPPs, are prowling the skies looking for whatever kind of frequencies are coming in during these super absurd times. And they're keeping up their reputation as being brilliant bird brains, because Peaches and the Bombardiers, of course, are making sure that they are watching over the National Security Pigeons, who did promise intelligent intel and good security, super security, but they also promised pranks. And so one must be very, very alert to pranks and what's being proposed as true, and discoveries that supposedly are earth-shattering, great expectations, great discoveries, like the info that's unfolding in Egypt. The pigeons are going to send, they're going to gather up a group, and they're going to send them into the Arab world there, because too much in the past has come out of Egypt, and there's a lot of disinformation and a pressure to put things out to confuse people. The Puffies in their Pidgecast, Told You So, Coo on X, they said, well, just watch for more updates about what's really going on in space, on Mars, with Elon, etc., Plenty, Plumpy, Pumpy, and Pi, their pitchcast, What's Real, is more relevant than ever. What's real? This is one of the biggest issues you face. What's real? Can you prove it? And if is it deep fake? Is it already intel? Is it a battle between secret societies? Is it hidden information? All of this, all of it together, all of it. So, but on a light note to tie things up here, peanuts and popcorn, the famous first pigeons there under the Biden administration. They were pickleball players, and they were marionettes and baton twirlers, ice skaters, apple pickers, supreme entrepreneurs. They came up with the petite pigeon pillows and disguises and pigeon capes and all kinds of things. They had pigeon pudding, and everything. So now they have a new one. They're the entrepreneurs, and it's for summer fun, and it's called Power Punch Pidgeritas, only the best. And it's going to be raspberry and lime. They debated over blackberry and lime or raspberry and lime. Maybe they will put both out, of course, delivered by carrier pigeon. And it's a very special brand of tequila. It's Pedro's Pigeonville Gorge tequila. Top of the line. And of course, it doesn't have just one worm. It's got quite a few worms. Everyone's, those pigeons, they do like worms now and again, and so they said, well, they asked their pigeon friend Pedro there to pigeon it up a bit and to make that tequila super good with agave and all the other secret ingredients. So watch out for pidgeritas for some good summer fun. So friends, we trust we've given you a few things to think about your own life, about your creations, your manifestations, and another tip that's important in terms of your health. Many people, doctors, everything comes down to inflammation. It means the body's unhappy, your body's not settled, and all kinds of studies and medical people and practitioners of all sorts, they all point to glutathione as being the master defender of the body, of the immune system, of the cells. And so, if you want to be healthy, glutathione, it increases the flow of electrons in the body, it helps charge the mitochondria, it is an antioxidant, it boosts the vitamin mineral absorption, and it can help you with all kinds of physical difficulties, from eye health to brain health to gut health, all of the organs. In other words, friends, there are ways to improve your health, to improve your life, and to have a good time. Remember, laughter is one of the best medicines, but you do need to eat. You do need to sleep. You do need to hydrate, but you need to have fun. Singing, dancing, playing a musical instrument, enjoying the outdoors, swimming, hiking, mowing the lawn, admiring the endless magnificence of nature's wonders. So friends, we invite you to enjoy your life. You are the creator. You find the safety, and you find the way. You live in the world that you vibrate. That is your safe, secure, knowing world. So create the best, dear friends. Good evening.